Are you considering a move abroad and wondering whether Spain or Colombia might be your next home? I'm Karl Pierre, and today we're diving deep into a comparative analysis of living in these two vibrant countries. From the infrastructure to the climate and everything in between, we'll explore what each location has to offer. I'm personally deciding between these two countries for me and my family, and we'll be sharing which of these two makes the most sense for a family of 4. First up, let's talk about infrastructure. Spain, as a member of the EU, boasts a modern and well-maintained infrastructure. From high-speed trains connecting major cities like Madrid and Barcelona to excellent healthcare facilities, Spain offers a high standard of living that is reflective of its robust public services. On the other hand, Colombia has seen significant improvements in recent years, especially in major cities like Bogotá, Medellin, and Cali. However, it's worth noting that while urban areas are rapidly advancing, the rural regions and the farmlands can still face challenges. When I went to Spain to really look into real estate and decide whether or not living there would be good for me and my family, I started out in Valencia, which is a large city within Spain, not the largest like Madrid or Barcelona, but Valencia is a proper city and it's near the coast, so it has a lot of the typical Spanish feel and it has the beach right nearby, and both of those things really matter to me. But I went to a small town by the name of Pego because they're selling properties cheap. And on this channel, I've been covering cheap real estate in places like Italy. And it made sense for me to kind of go out and see what the countryside of Spain had to offer. And when I look at how easy it is to go from a city like Valencia to a small countryside town like Pego, whether it's by public transportation or driving, it just felt a lot easier to get from those two locations than it would be to go from a large city like Medellin to a smaller rural town like Guatapé, for instance. Now the distance is longer, but you could tell along the way that there is kind of a regression in infrastructure or more signs of poverty. And you'll see this a lot in South American countries. So in this particular area, I have to say that Spain has the advantage from an infrastructure standpoint. There's more airports, train services, public services. It's just a more developed country, as you would imagine. Topic number 2 on my list is always language. Language plays an important role in adapting to a new country. In Spain, Spanish is the primary language, which could also be beneficial globally, especially in the Americas. Colombia, sharing the same language, offers an equally immersive experience for Spanish speakers. I believe that if my kids are to grow up and be educated in a new system, it has to be within an area where the language is widely spoken. Nearly 1/3 of the American population speaks Spanish. Obviously, we have this huge Caribbean influence and also Mexican influence and other people from South America that have immigrated to the country. And because of that, you'll find that speaking Spanish in the States is really useful. As a healthcare professional and an owner and operator of home healthcare agencies, we often struggle to care for the Spanish-speaking audience just because we don't have enough caregivers or professionals that can speak to people who only speak that language. So if my children were to grow up in Colombia or Spain and decide to come back to the United States or go to South America for an opportunity in their particular career path, having that language set would definitely be to their advantage, especially if they're going to be down in South America. In North America, it helps because it makes you a little more marketable because you could speak to 1/3 of the population that may not speak English or may not be fluent in English. So again, when I think about moving to a new country and thinking, well, what language will my kids need to learn and how can they use it in their everyday life or in the future, I want to make sure that the language makes sense. But since Colombia and Spain speak the same language, I have to give each one of these sections a point, saying that they're pretty much even. There's no benefit with one versus the other. Considering the cost of living is a point to consider when moving abroad, according to Numbeo, Spain generally has a higher cost of living when compared to Colombia, but it also offers a higher standard of living. Cities like Madrid and Barcelona can be expensive, particularly in terms of rent and dining out. By comparison, Colombia offers a lower cost of living, with cities like Medellin and Bogotá providing excellent value for the money, especially when it comes to housing and local dining and services. However, imported goods and certain services can be pricey in Colombia. This makes Colombia particularly attractive for those looking to stretch their dollar in a vibrant economy while still benefiting from the cost savings of a country like Colombia. So when it comes to just the sheer cost, 1 point for Colombia. On to the next topic, the friendliness of people. Both Spain and Colombia are known for their warm and welcoming people. Spaniards are open and sociable, often gathering in cafes and public squares. Colombians, known for their friendly nature, are incredibly welcoming to foreigners, which could make settling in a whole lot easier. Being that I've been in both countries, I've got to say that I would find both the cultures to be warm. I feel that in Spain, people really like to go out, congregate amongst themselves, spend time with their friends and family in these semi-social settings, right? It's kind of thinking of the bar culture of the United States. Their culture is kind of the same, except it's going to be more centralized around food and wine and just spending time usually outdoors and just letting time pass with your friends. Given that Colombia is a Spanish colony, a lot of that culture was obviously exported and developed in the Colombian culture as well. The one difference is that there's also a significant indigenous influence from what I could see in a lot of the South American countries, and Colombia is no exception. And along with that comes slightly different traditions around food, but there still is this sense of coming together and spending time with your family, your friends, and your loved ones. However, since maybe Colombia is like the colony and has this like mixing of people, I find the Colombians to be a whole lot friendlier than the Spanish people. Not saying that people from Spain are not friendly. It's just that the Colombians are a little more friendly and more willing to kind of approach you and introduce you to their culture, while people in Spain, at least the cities that I've been to, it takes a little longer for them to invite you to conversation or welcome you or even invest time for you to feel comfortable in that way. Both are more warm and friendly than the United States, in my opinion, but at the same time, Colombia has the edge in this category. When comparing local wages, Spain generally offers higher salaries, which aligns with its cost of living. Colombia has a minimum wage of only $300 per month, with most salaries ranging from about $500 to $1,500 a month. Switching over to Spain, the minimum wage is higher, around $1,300 a month, and average wages at $3,000 a month. These two figures don't seem to add up to what I've observed in talking to people in Spain, where most feel that their wages make it difficult to keep up with the higher cost of living. But based on the data that is available, there is more income potential in Spain, so Spain gets the nod in this particular category. The next point will matter to anyone with children or in need to expand their education base. Education in both countries is commendable, with Spain providing numerous international schools and higher education institutions recognized across Europe. When it comes to education access, diversity of programs, support for special needs, and institutions of higher learning, Spain has Colombia beat in this category. Colombia is catching up with improvements in educational standards and more affordable options, but Spain still has them beat. On to food. Food in both countries offers rich culinary experiences. Spanish cuisine, known for its Mediterranean influence, features seafood and tapas, while Colombian cuisine is diverse with regional dishes like arepas and bandeja paisas. But being in both of these places and trying the food, I gotta say that Spanish food is much, much better and much more defined. Colombian food reminds me of a lot of the food that is common within the colonial countries like Spain, like the Caribbean. So rice, beans, a portion of meat, heavy on the carbohydrates, and just variations of that dish. Meanwhile, Spain's culinary tradition is older, and also the history of the country is older, and access to ingredients and the crossing of cultures has really shaped how the Spanish people eat, how they flavor their food. And the food is really just a lot better. Now, I've gone to good restaurants in Colombia. Colombia has done very well, especially in Medellin and Bogota. A lot of the cuisine are international sort of restaurants. So it's not like they're serving up traditional Colombian fare. I would say traditional Colombian fare is good, but it has nothing on Spanish food. Another thing about Colombia that bothers me, and especially if you hang out with paisas, a lot of the major cities in Colombia are not on the coast. It's kind of weird. Like Most major cities in most countries are on the coast or on a major river. In Colombia, the three biggest cities are all inland cities in the mountains. Well, Cali's not in the mountains, but Medellin and Bogota are in the mountains. It's a little strange by comparison. And because of that, they're going to eat farmed food local to those regions. So they're not very into seafood. And I am. So Spain, being bordered on two sides by the ocean, really has this richer seafood culinary experience. And I like seafood, so again, that's another reason why I would have to give the edge in this category to Spain. So for the 8th category, healthcare. Healthcare in Spain is ranked among the best in Europe, accessible to all residents, including expats who are in the system. Colombia's healthcare system has made significant strides with excellent facilities in major cities, but the standards vary in the rural areas. My health insurance plan with Sura as a non-resident cost me $120 a month, and by comparison to the US, that is a lot cheaper. In both countries, you could get quality services. The advantage of this category goes to Spain yet again, mainly because care is more accessible for all residents as opposed to Colombia, where you're expected to pay for services if you're in dire situations. You could talk to Colombians and they'll tell you stories about people who go to the emergency room who can't afford the services and die on the spot. In Spain, you're going to at least be treated, and your economic situation isn't going to dictate whether or not you could get care. So for topic number 9, we're going to talk about the climate. The climate in Spain varies from the Mediterranean to the continental, offering something for everyone. Colombia's climate is equally diverse, from the cool highlands of Bogota to the tropical coastlines of Cartagena. If you want all 4 seasons in one country, Spain is an option. But in my opinion, I have to give the edge to Colombia because I cannot stand winter. I could go the rest of my life without experiencing another winter. And when it comes to weather, I have to say that I like the tropical weather a whole lot better. I can't stand winter. So for the last comparison point, let's talk about safety. Safety is a priority for many expats and locals, really. Spain is generally very safe with low crime rates across the country. Colombia has worked hard to shake off its reputation, and while it has made considerable progress, certain areas still require caution. I generally feel safe in Colombia, but I'm certainly more aware of the potential risk. For example, in Colombia, it's not uncommon for me to check my pockets more frequently to make sure that people don't walk too close to me for the risk of pickpocketing. I'll put my cell phone in my front pocket, my wallet in my front pocket. I certainly won't go around to certain places at night. I exercise the same caution as I would in other urban areas that are known to higher levels of crime. It's just kind of like common sense for me, especially being from New York City where things were rough for a while. So I kind of approach Colombia in the same regards, and I'm also hyper aware of just the economic differences between people, right? For example, if you're making $300 a month as your annual wage and somebody has a $1,500 smartphone, it's quite an attractive thing to steal because that can replace 5 months of minimum wage salary. So being aware of those sort of things is really important, and you're going to have to move accordingly. Now, where would I rank the two as far as like where I feel more secure? Obviously, it's Spain. I actually do. But I don't feel like Colombia is one of those places that every time you go out, you're at risk and you're going to be robbed and you're going to be hurt and you may be murdered. That does exist. That does happen. But it's not as extreme as some people may think. Deciding between Spain and Colombia involves considering various factors that affect daily life and overall satisfaction. Ultimately, it's your choice and values, but based upon my logic, Spain is the clear choice overall with a 7-4 split over Colombia. If you're planning to relocate and need personalized advice, visit my website to book a consultation. My team is here to help you navigate the complexities of moving internationally, ensuring that you make the best decision for your lifestyle and budget. If you want to see how Spain compares to Italy, I suggest you check out this video right here. The best part about Italy is that you could get a house for as little as $1. So if you're on the fence about where to go, I highly recommend this video.